Hi, welcome to Remedies Recommends. The next in our series is cysts. We hear that word a lot. We often are not quite sure what it means. Well, cysts can be internal, they can be external. The external ones you can usually see when the cyst rises to the surface. The cyst can be hard, the cyst can be soft. But what can you do to address cysts? Well, we first recommend, like we always do, talk to your healthcare practitioner. Some cysts can be serious and require medical intervention. You want to know what they are and what your doctor recommends. Once something serious is ruled out, then you can contemplate what are natural things that I can do to help support my body and to eliminate or prevent cysts. Our product Cyst Be Gone from Remedies Nutrition is a product we of course recommend. Why would we recommend Remedies Nutrition Cyst Be Gone in comparison to possibly other supplements that are on the market? The reason for this is we make our own supplements. We don't source, we don't buy from other companies. We research, we base on clinical study. We develop our own formulas. They're proprietary, owned by us and only by us. We ensure that we have the best ingredients, that they're fresh. And we, of course, are monitored by the FDA as manufacturers. We're not buying and reselling. And the research that we find is what goes into our product. So it's based on medical research and medical studies. Now, what are the items that are in our product, the herbal supplements? They would be, I'm going to go on the list in the back, so you know too, and it also lists the quantities by milligram. It contains animal, graviola, modified citrus pectin, also known as MCP, cat's claw, turmeric, and reishi mushroom. You can do your own personal research, or you can go on remediesnutrition.com and see the information for yourself. Earlier we talked about external and internal cysts, but there can be all kinds of cysts. So I'm going to refer to my list and some explanations as to each one. First is ovarian cysts, very common, and a lot of women suffer from these, very familiar with this one. There's Baker's cysts. Now these usually form in the knee area and can be seen in the back of the knee as a bump or lump that protrudes out from the skin. There are sebaceous cysts. Sebaceous is another fancy word for fat. So these tend to be full of fat, debris, skin matter, and they're usually formed after the body suffers some trauma to the hair follicles or to the skin. They're usually benign. They do not need to be treated. And we've seen certain television programs where these cysts are cut and extracted, especially when they're large and hanging off or protruding from areas of the body. There are renal cysts. These are internal, and as the word renal implies, they form on our kidneys or those areas. Usually a doctor can take an ultrasound and rule out any issues, and they're typically benign. And there's the pilodinal cyst, and this is a sort of bag containing fat, sweat, skin, hair debris, and they usually come in around the lower back and buttocks in that general area. There's a Bartholin cyst, and these are usually an obstruction of a gland called the Bartolini gland. This is in the anterior part of the vagina and has the function of lubricating the vagina. So it usually produces no pain or symptoms, and it can go away all by itself. There's a synovial cyst. These are generally benign. They're clear, fluid-filled, and they form usually in the joints, mainly in the wrist. But it could happen in the knees, it could happen in the ankles, or in the feet. They could also be associated with trauma, repetitive stress, overuse, in other words, or defects in the actual joint. And in some cases, there are no symptoms at all, maybe a little bit of pain, loss of strength, or sensitivity. There's an arachnoid cyst, and it's a collection of cerebral spinal fluid between the membranes that cover the brain, usually a congenital condition. There's a hepatic cyst, so again relating to the liver, does not produce symptoms or alterations in the body, usually not a sign of cancer or severe, but a doctor should examine you for this if that's an issue and follow up to see if there are alterations. And lastly, we have breast cysts, also something that many women are familiar with. Usually no symptoms. They can arise at any age, and more common in women between 40 to 50 years of age, and they're usually containing a liquid. So now that we've learned a lot about cysts, the causes, where they can appear in the body, and how you can address them when you become more familiar, we want to talk about the herbs that you can use to support your body. The first herb we want to talk about is graviola. It's also known as soursop, and it is an amazing fruit. The fruit is used, the leaves are used, and actually an interesting fact about graviola, some 20 years ago, one of our major universities took out a patent, and they are researching it, and the patent is for the day when they can identify and copy in a pharmaceutical format the properties of graviola. Now, what makes graviola so amazing is that when you have resistant cancer, that cancer can resist chemo because it builds a pump and spits it out. What graviola does, it works on that cancer cell and it disables certain chemical mechanisms it needs to build that pump. So what happens? Over time, that cell cannot defend itself against chemo. So now we see why these universities, or this particular university, is working very hard on duplicating this. But until that day comes, you can look into graviola as a possible support system for your health. It has a very long history. It's used in foods. It's deemed extremely safe, even though it contains potent properties that affects the body, but it affects the body in a beneficial way. Now, the next herb that we have is animal. Many of you have heard about this herb, also something that comes from South and Central America. It's an immune booster. It's an antioxidant. It's used to reduce inflammation and pain. And it's interesting that one of the properties of it is a strong garlic odor. It has a number of potent chemicals, if you wish to call them that also support the body in many ways. Again, you're welcome to come to our website and see the free research that we post there for you. Now we have cat's claw. Again, this is something very familiar to many of you. Again, it comes from South and Central America, and it has strong antioxidant properties. And it helps the body to eliminate free radicals, something that we've known about for many decades now, and many of you are already familiar with. This leads us now to one that we're very familiar with, turmeric. Today, extremely popular as a supplement, and for many, many reasons. But for the purpose of this issue of cysts, it is a very strong antioxidant, and it contains vitamins, it contains minerals, and also other items that help you digest, which of course is key to nutrition and health. Reishi mushroom, Japanese, a lot of research. In Japan, they treat many different illnesses with reishi. They have done this for a very long time. There's a lot of research there about that. But we include it in our formula because of the benefits that it gives the body in the prevention and management of cysts. And then we have modified citrus pectin. Pectin used in jams and jellies, citrus, grapefruit, lemon, limes. We all know that family of fruit. But why is modified citrus pectin in the formula? It helps with circulation. So therefore, it exerts a good vehicle or a good form of getting all these nutrients to all the cells in your body. It's also an excellent detoxifier because it tends to bind to toxic substances to remove them from the body. So how can we use all of this information? Well, first we want to do our diligence, make sure we clear any cysts with a medical professional. That done, we can then move forward to supporting the body, preventing and removing cysts. How? Please tune in to our next Remedies Recommends.